Alright, well, hello again. It's been a few weeks since my last video update, so I thought, well, it's past due. And I took a trip to Indonesia a few weeks ago, so I thought, well, I should probably talk about that. So I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. So everything about Indonesia, my thoughts and everything. I'll start with the positive, because that's good to start with the positive. Um, the good, cost of living. Yeah, cheap prices for everything. That's nice. Yeah, I got this, I think I got this shirt. It's a polo Ralph Lauren for $25 at the airport in Indonesia. Whereas compared to the prices in US or Japan, Japan is bad too. Yeah, like outlet stores, this same shirt would be 90 US dollars. Um, and it's supposedly like super discounted and yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So anyway, that's nice. The prices are good. Another good thing, people are generally friendly, although when I get to the bad, you'll see why I'm kind of suspicious of that now. But I think people are friendly, which is nice. So another good thing, countryside is beautiful. Once you get out of the cities and into the countryside, it's pretty nice to see the rural way of life. And I could see how that could be attractive to a lot of people. It's very like Hawaii-like, tropical-like, and yeah, it's cleaner than the cities, so it's nice to get out and into cleaner areas. As weird as that may sound, into the more into the farming areas is actually cleaner. It feels cleaner. Um, Another good thing, people had really good conversational levels of English, which I thought was very much better than Japan in general. Although lots of people speak English in Japan and you can kind of get by, there's a lot more situations that are kind of awkward, like at convenience stores or places like that, where people get so confused in Japan and they have like super confused expression on their face when you try to explain things, and you have to like warp your words, but to sound more like Japanese, like katakana, like toilet paper ga arimasu ka or things like that. Like you have to really bend your words to make it sound like Japanese. Indonesia, it didn't seem like I had any problems with that. You could generally talk to people and it seemed like they understood things, which was good. Um, uh, yeah, another good thing, the cities have different feels. So if you go to Jakarta, which we didn't really like at all, go from Jakarta to Lombok to Solo to Jogja. We went to all those places, and every city had a kind of a different feel. Um, Things were similar, but things were different too. So it was nice, and you can kind of pick, your favorite city. And I think I went with my friend, and we both liked Solo. Surprisingly, I think we expected that we were gonna like Jogja, which was it's more like the Kyoto, supposed to be more traditional, blended with modern, like a nice mix of both, like Kyoto style. But it was okay. But I think we ended up being gravitating more towards Solo, which was interesting. But yeah, cities have different feels to them, so you got to explore a couple, go see a couple and a couple different islands. Um, and I'm thinking of folks who go to like Bali and only see Bali, like they're not really getting the whole picture and they're getting like a very tourist view of, sort of like sheltered view of what things are like, which is comfortable, more comfortable for sure, because this was a challenging experience for me. It's like the first time in one of these countries, one of these types of countries, for a week, which is a long time. And it was uncomfortable in a lot of ways, and it's nice to get back in a lot of ways. But it was a nice, challenging experience. But yeah, if you just go to Bali, that's not really in Indonesia, or go to Lombok, which is becoming like the number two Bali, more developed and everything. It's really different. You're gonna see different things. So yeah, go outside and go challenge yourself. So that was the good stuff, and now the bad stuff that I was saving for the second part. I'll just I'll just rattle them off. I don't want to spend too much time, but I know this is gonna be longer. Bathrooms, that was culture shock. Even in nice hotels and things, there's no toilet paper. A lot of times, no toilet paper. You have to bring your own toilet. You have to bring your own tissues or wet wipes. So I read up beforehand, even like hand sanitizer, that's handy to have. I read up beforehand. I brought all these things. I was prepared for that, so that was good. Um, but I was kind of hesitant to use bathrooms outside of hotels. It was a challenge enough inside hotels, but yeah, because of no toilet paper, they have like bidet style or something. Not even bidets sometimes, where there's like a hose and you spray it. Like it just seems gross. And when they don't have that, it's like a bucket and like a scrubber or something. Like you don't, I don't want to know the proper Indonesian way to do things. So um, yeah, that was one hotel where there was just a bucket and like a little scrubber next to it, and it's like you're supposed to figure it out on your own, I guess. So but I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna use urinals outside of the hotels and that's it. So that mostly worked, which was good. And yeah, if you eat street food and stuff like that, you have an opportunity to possibly get like a stomach bug, or it's like it's that kind of country where if you drink the water or whatever, you're gonna get diarrhea. Luckily, I didn't have too many problems with that until like towards the end of the trip. I think I ate something in Manila in the Philippines, and that gave me a bug, and I like for a week after that, while I was in Japan, I just yeah, that was no fun. But I'm kind of over that now, which is good. But anyway, yeah, yeah. And generally, another bad thing is dirtiness, general dirtiness, open sewers that you could fall into. Um, Jakarta was terrible about this. You walk around, you really have to watch where you're stepping. You could fall into open holes that go into who knows where, into like construction zones, and it's it was kind of shocking. The streets are kind of dirty. Um, Maybe the most shocking thing, like culture shock for me, was in Lombok, where we went to a like a farmer's market style place where they had fruits and frogs and fish and all this stuff for sale. And we went in, and it's super dirty. You can tell that you're not gonna want to buy anything from here. But as you walk up the stairs, there's cockroaches that cross in front of you, cross over your path, and you could see squashed cockroaches next to them. So you have to be careful not to step on any. You don't want to hear anything crunchy under your feet. Um, and there's like little in that little market. There's like little pet cats that are super emaciated and like super thin, and they're just sitting right next to the food. And flies. There was like some fish. I could tell it was. I thought it was fish, but I looked at it and I thought, what are those little black things? Is that some sort of those spices or something? I've never seen that. And I think the attendant there, or what do you call it? The seller, noticed where my gaze was looking, and she looked over it, and she kind of moved her hand and swatted away, which were actually flies. Like I don't know, like 100 flies, like a lot of flies, maybe 50 or 100 flies. They just like, yeah, that was shocking. That was super shocking. I'm not gonna buy anything there. I'm just like, get me out of here. Such a relief to get out of there. That was surprising because Lombok in general, that city in Lombok, which was it Matarang? I forgot what it was called. It started with an M. It was generally better than Jakarta. I think every city we went to was better than Jakarta. Jakarta was just like a whole. I think it's just like not worth it. And Jakarta, it's too bad because you think Jakarta is like the big modern city and everything, but they need to spend more money to fix up stuff. And yeah, like they have scenic bridge over a river, and the river is full of trash and it stinks. Like the sewers, like the open hole sewers that are on the side of the road, it's just no good. Everything was better than Jakarta. So yeah, that's interesting. Something I kind of already mentioned, stray dogs and cats, and you can tell when they're stray because they're kind of thin. No one feeds them food, and they have to find food. But there's stray dogs, and it's kind of dangerous when you're walking around because you can come up to a dog and it'll be kind of like snarling at you, and especially when it has little puppies, and you don't want to get between them, and you don't want to get bit by a potentially rabid dog. So that's kind of bad. And it's also a bad situation for taxi drivers or tour guides who are driving around on the roads, and there's just wild animals like dogs most of the time, like crossing in front of the car, and you got to swerve to avoid them. Or in one case, we almost hit a chicken, just chicken just walked out on the side of the road at night, and you could barely saw it in time, and that was, I think we managed not to hit it, but we almost did. It just yeah, it's weird. A big thing that I unfortunately have to mention, scammers. Scammers love tourists, and to them, tourists are just walking ATMs. So that's what they say basically, and it's true. That's what you end up feeling like because these guys only care about getting money out of you, and you feel this in a lot of places, especially when you walk out of airports, when you walk out of train stations. There's a group of guys that are all taxi drivers, a lot of shady guys, and they're all in your face, and they're all saying, "Mistah, Mistah, where you go? Where you go? Oh, I can get that cheap. Where you go? Mistah, 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 Mistah." And you want to like punch them after a while. Like, apparently there was a Mister is okay, but apparently there's another word that's like general word for foreigner. It's like in Japan, it's like gaijin or gaikokujin, and they used to yell that, but actually they learned to be a little more polite and they say Mister, but it's super annoying still. And you gotta avoid these guys, and you have to look straight ahead. You can't look them in the eye because it just encourages them, and you try to be polite and say, "Oh no, thank you," and they keep following you, and really annoying. Um, yeah, and I think the worst case of it was actually not in Indonesia, but it was on a layover. We had a layover twice in Manila, and we went out in the morning, had some coffee, looking for a place to get coffee, and this guy in like a little rickshaw came by and was like, "Mistah, Mistah, Mistah, where you want to go?" And it's like, and there was the name of a hotel that I didn't know what he was talking about, but he kept yelling out like, "White Knight, White Knight, White Knight, White, White Knight." Like, what's wrong with you? Like, it turns out to be like White Knight is like a popular touristy hotel in that area. It's around Fort Santiago or so. But it's like, "White Knight, I'll take you there. White Knight." I mean, you could just walk over there. But yeah, that was the worst because it was like 5, 10 minutes, and I got tired of it, and he was just following us around. We were just ignoring him. We weren't interacting with him anymore. And I just had to say, like, no, no. I reached a breaking point. It was at the end of the trip, and I'm just like uncomfortable, and I'm just like, I just want to go home, kind of. I want to go back to Japan where people don't do that. And I just said like, "No, no, we don't want it, no." And he got pissed off, and he walked away. Well, that was good. Most of the time, you just ignore them and they go away after a while. It's just good. But yeah, another situation with the scammers, a couple of them actually, unfortunately. You get these kind of fake guides in front of temples that just sort of sit there and do nothing. Like these temples that were built like, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, or I don't know, not thousands, maybe thousands of years ago sometimes, I think. And they're basically just sitting outside of the temples that their ancestors built, and they do nothing. They just sit there and they wait for tourists to come by, and they offer their guide, "Oh, I'll be a guide, I'll go through." And apparently it was like a learning experience for me. My friend wanted me to experience what it was like, and for me to get better with those sort of situations. So I actually thought, okay, yeah, okay, let's get the guide because it's gonna be cheap, right? It's Indonesia, and we got the guide, and he had something that he'd memorized from like Wikipedia or something, and it was like with the wrong intonation and pauses. The pauses were weird, and it's just like almost monotone reading off of this thing in his head. And I could barely understand what he was saying, and he just went through it so fast. And about halfway through, I'm slow, so about halfway through, I realized, oh, this isn't free. Actually, we're gonna have to pay. So yeah, at the end, he's like, "Oh yeah, I get a commission, I get a tip," or and we had to figure out what to give him, and that was a hassle. So we should have just skipped that basically. So I learned my lesson, and I thought, okay, no, none of these guides in front of the temples anymore, which is maybe a common sense thing for some people, but this is my first time kind of experiencing this sort of thing, so I had to learn. But it's a good place to learn because it's cheap. I mean, you pay them like a buck or two or so, like it's no big deal. Um, yeah. Oh yeah, another thing, I got shortchanged at the market. There's a market, which is it's just a market, like a chain market, not even like mom and pop store or anything. But I don't know why, but they thought they could take advantage of me there, and I knew what I was supposed to get back in change, and they shortchanged me. And I told them, and they understood my English pretty well because I said, "Oh no, it's supposed to be 29,000. You gave me 20,000." And he looked at it and he gave me the rest, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, yeah, really, you really made a mistake. Really, you work here all day and you don't know how to do." No, I don't think so. So he's trying to take advantage of me. So at that point, I got kind of frustrated because like they want me to respect their culture, but they have to respect me too. You know, it has to go both ways, and I wasn't feeling it there. So, um, and there were lots of places, generally lots of places where they list the prices in U.S. dollars. Those are suspicious. I would avoid those. Um, there was one, I think it was Jakarta actually. They listed this tour. It's like an hour and a half tour for 19 US dollars, and they always advertise it in US dollars because it sounds cheaper, and they don't have the the crazy amount of money, which it would be in Indonesian money, lots of zeros after it, so it sounds cheaper. And obviously catering towards tourists, like US dollars, just suspicious. Just yeah, I'd just be on my guard against that. If you're going there, I would just ignore any place that had US dollars listed. Another bad thing, the heat, humidity. I think it was just coming out of the sort of that sort of season where it gets the worst. So it could have been worse, but it was still pretty bad. And you were feeling it, especially towards the end of the day or even in the middle of the day. You just want to take a shower, like walking around the cities. And the place where it was the worst was in Jomblong Cave. Inside the cave, it must have been 100% humidity there. It was terrible. It was like hell. But that was actually a highlight of the trip for me because it was beautiful. I had never done anything like that before. We went on cables down. Check out my previous YouTube video where you can see us go into the cave. That was a highlight for me, but it was super humid. um, Another bad thing, museums and exhibits are kind of in disrepair. They're not well protected or taken care of. This isn't totally true. It's not 100% true. They had some museums that were modern and were, uh, sort of well taken care of, but they also had things that, like in Solo, I think it was, where it was just, the museum was really old. You could tell the displays had been put together in the 20s and the 30s, and that's almost 100 years ago now, and those display cases are falling apart, or the labels were pretty inaccurate or bad, like super not useful. They need some researchers to come in and put some dates on the things and yeah, give it more information and modernize it and update the display cases. And they need to protect things, especially things like outdoor temples, because you could walk right up to statues and things and touch them, and too much of that. And they have a decent amount of tourists, and if all the tourists come by and touch everything like that, and that stuff isn't going to be around for too much longer. But I mean, the stuff has already been kind of desecrated anyway, because like a lot of the statues' heads have been chopped off, which is unfortunate. But they have to protect what is left there, I think, and I think they should start doing a better job at that. That's my opinion. Uh, let's see. Oh, another thing, credit cards were not widely used. There's apparently a lot of credit card fraud in Indonesia, so it was a huge hassle to try to use credit cards anywhere, which we rarely could anyway, because lots of places only accepted cash because of the fraud. Um, but I was able to book like one domestic flight online on Lion Air, which is a low cost carrier. But I had to jump through so many hoops, and I had to call up my credit card company and they had to approve it, and tried to book another ticket using the exact same website, the exact same airline, the exact same credit card. Didn't work. It wouldn't even go through to my credit card. I called up the credit card company and they said, we don't even see it on here. Like, what? Like, what? We, we got so frustrated with that, and it's such a waste of time trying to book. We tried multiple booking websites. It's just useless. The best thing to do, and which is what we ended up doing, was we went to their physical ticket office for Lion Air and booked, and we were able to use the credit card in person. But doing it online was a huge hassle, and yeah, that was a waste of time actually. It's a lot of wasted effort. And the last bad thing, because there's too many bad things already, power outages. So power outages are a fact of daily life in Indonesia, as we discovered. But we didn't really have a problem with it, except at one hotel where it was kind of in like a historic district area, and I think every night the power went off, every evening. It was just a power outage, and the restaurants were well prepared for it because they had candles and they were still serving people and cooking by gas, and serving by candlelight, which which was nice actually because we went to a restaurant and it was candlelight, and it's like, well, usually you have to pay extra for this in the U.S. It's a candlelight dinner, how romantic. But yeah, that was interesting. But we stayed at this one hotel. It's the hotel that had the bucket and like the scrubber in the bathroom. Not so great bathroom, and yeah, the drains in that yeah, the shower drained out into the whole bathroom, and the drain didn't really drain efficiently, and that was a disaster. We ended up checking out of there earlier than expected, and then going to another city. We were changing some plans at the last minute because of that place, but also because it was terrible when the power went off. They have no backup generator like the other hotels do, and once the air conditioner goes off, your room just gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and you open the door to go outside and it's even hotter outside, so you want to keep all the cool air, and so you're like, close all the windows, close all the doors, and it just got hotter and hotter and hotter till the power was off for a few hours, and it finally came on sometime, uh, yeah, in the middle of the night. But it was hard to sleep, and that was no fun. Luckily we only had to put up with that for one night, and we're just like, it's not worth it. We gotta find some other place. So go pay a decent amount. There's a lot of cheap places, but you gotta pay a decent amount to get a hotel that has a backup generator, as we discovered, unless you want to sweat and not be able to sleep. So that's my experience in Indonesia. So interesting. So didn't go to Bali this trip. Maybe some other future trip get to see it because it's another city, but very touristy as I've heard. And Lombok is becoming more like that now too, which I saw them constructing new hotels and stuff like that. So um, yeah, I might end up going to Bali sometime, but see how that compares. But yeah, Indonesia, it's interesting. So, but I'm happy to be in Japan. It's definitely more comfortable here. And yeah, in about a month, I'll be back in the U.S. So yeah, I gotta enjoy the rest of Japan. So yeah. Well, thanks for listening. That's it for this video.